Hello and welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. Today on the show, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, weed control in soybeans. It all starts with a great pre-emerge program. We'll talk to you about the best pre-emerge program on today's show.
Well, I don't know if our featured nutrient today, manganese, is going to help with weed control, but it certainly may help even with disease control. We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
As always, we've got an iron talk coming up later in the show and a tough to control weed of the week. But first, here's this week's Farm Basics.
Do you want perfectly conditioned grain, but are worried about the cost to upgrade your bins? With the Grain Temp Guard from Farm Shop MFG, the ideal solution costs less than you think. Preventing your stored grain from spoilage and overdrying can save your farm thousands of dollars in grain loss each year. And you can outfit your existing bin system for as little as a few $100s, not thousands like you might expect. Learn more about how to get the low-cost Grain Temp Guard system on your bins at farmshopmfg.com.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to answer the question, why does corn have brace roots?
That's an interesting one. You know, when you look at cornfields, if you ever get a chance to walk into a cornfield, you see brace roots on the outside edge of the field, but when you get out into the middle of the field, sometimes you don't see any brace roots at all. And you may be wondering, well, what's going on? It's the same hybrid planted the same day with the same planter in the same field. Shouldn't there be similarities between the plants? Not necessarily, because one of the big functions of brace roots is to anchor that plant and to support it. Think about the outside edges of your fields. The wind is really going to hit the outside few rows of your corn, where out in the middle, they're pretty protected by all those end rows that you've got. So the outside edge of the field generally has at least one set of brace roots, and many times even two or more sets of brace roots, just for that reason, to hold it up in the wind.
So basically what we're saying here is brace roots are the result of stress. If the plant had no stress, it didn't have wind blowing against it, it was standing just perfectly without the brace roots would never form.
Now, when we say stress, it could be anything, and one real common stress that we see is nutrients. If we don't have nutrients getting in through those lower roots on the plant, it's going to try and put more roots out to try to get the water and the nutrients that it needs. So we see brace roots forming many times when something happened to the bottom roots on our plant. Maybe it's a disease that blocked them off, or maybe it's rootworm feeding or something that's not allowing nutrients to come in through the bottom of the plant. So when we've got those brace roots out in the middle of the field, that's one of the things that we're looking at that could be an issue.
Now, here's the thing. Should a plant have brace roots or should it not? Can I get the most yield by having a plant with lots of brace roots, or can I get the most yield if a plant had no brace roots? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question, because typically we see brace roots forming in all of our fields, mainly because we have lots of wind. Our average wind speed in some of these months where the corn is growing is 15 miles an hour. That's the average wind speed. We commonly deal with 40, 50 mile an hour winds. There's going to be stress. I don't know how you get around that out in a field situation.
Well, like Brian said, if you could just plant a corn plant and put it in a greenhouse, never have a puff of wind or a lack of water or nutrients throughout the season, you probably wouldn't need the brace roots, but in reality, you're going to see some brace roots out in fields, and it's going to vary from field to field and areas of fields to other areas of fields.
And let's hope that we need lots of brace roots just because we have such enormously huge ears on that plant that we're going to have record yield.
Well, that would be wonderful. Well, one way to get those record yields, Brian, is to stop our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?
More choices, more money. With Bayer Plus Rewards, you choose from our broad portfolio of high-performance products. Earn more money on the eligible products that are right for your farm. And use our new portal to see your purchases, track your rewards, and decide how you want to use them. Visit mybayerplus.com to sign in and start earning. That's the advantage of more control in your hands. That's the plus.
Avoid dry run failures with the new Hi-Pro Force Field Pump. Providing the ultimate protection, this wet seal pump will save you on costly in-season downtime to keep your sprayer running. Now all you have to worry about is the weather. Hi-Pro, helping you spray better.
There are a lot of steps to having a perfect season. Don't let your fertilizer plan be the step that trips you up. No matter when you apply fertilizer, no matter how, AgroLiquid has the experts and the products that'll help you move closer to your target and hit the bullseye. AgroLiquid moves you closer to your target.
You spend all year working hard to get as much yield as possible at harvest. The last thing you want to do is put your grain in the bin and have it spoil before you take it to market. Introducing the Grain Temp Guard from Farm Shop MFG. Designed and built by a farmer looking for a low-cost monitoring solution for existing bins, the Grain Temp Guard tracks temperature and humidity with an alarm system to alert you when your grain exceeds safe thresholds. For more information on a system for your bins, visit farmshopmfg.com.
The whole spring and summer flooding that we've had, guess what? We lost 100% of that. You know, we're sitting with maybe only a third of our acres.
I want everything to be perfect, and especially this year, it's not going to happen.
There's been one specific lab I feel like is trying to copy what we're doing. I then asked the question. They looked at me like a deer in the headlights. They don't know.
Over the last few years, we have talked with soybean farmers literally from all over the world complaining about weed control. Well, we've got the answer for you. If you've got Roundup resistant weeds, it starts with a great pre-emerge herbicide program that we call the 3 Pries.
All right, now you may be thinking, I don't know if I need to listen to this today. I've got the new Enlist trait going in my soybean fields, or I've got the new Extend trait going in my fields. Wrong answer. It doesn't matter what kind of soybeans you're planting, the best yields come when we use pre-emerge herbicides and stop the weeds before they ever emerge.
Specifically, what we're talking about with 3 Pries is we want you to get 3 effective modes of action on most of these Roundup resistant weeds. So it all depends on what weeds you're after, but the common weeds that we talk about with this program are water hemp, palmer pigweed, kochia, lamb's quarters, ragweed. I mean, we've got a lot of different Roundup resistant weeds that are out there. So first of all, we talk about the yellows. That'd be trifluralin, sonalan, prowl. Second, we've got PPO, either Valor or Authority. And then third, the old metribuzin. You may know that as Sencor or Lexone from back 20 or 30 years ago, like when we first were using it on our farm.
Here's the real challenge. We've got so much weed pressure in many soybean fields across the country that getting 99% control even is probably not good enough for you, especially when you've got heavy pressure. We want to get 99.9%. And that's why we're adding 3 modes of action that are effective. Now, you may also be thinking, hold on, this is going to cost me an arm and a leg. It's really not that expensive, especially when you think about what a bushel of soybeans is worth. Yes, I'd like soybeans to be worth $15 a bushel, and they're not. But even at $8 a bushel, it only takes a bushel and a half to maybe 2 bushels to pay for all 3 of these effective modes of action. That's a great deal, because you think about not getting perfect weed control out there, it's going to cost you yield and cost you that pretty quickly.
All right, here again, let's be very specific. With metribuzin, keep in mind the full rate's 2/3 of a pound. We usually talk about 1/3 of a pound, so that's a half rate already, which is going to run you roughly $4 or $5 an acre. It's not that expensive. If you have high pH soil, then immediately we're going to tell you use a lower rate. Maybe you can get by with $2 or $3 worth of metribuzin. It does not cost much money. With trifluralin, you go over to the yellows. Trifluralin for a pint and a half is roughly $4. You certainly can use Prowl. That's the no-till product. That does cost quite a bit more money. But if you can till your ground, I would use trifluralin. That's really inexpensive. Then you go to Valor or Authority. For a low rate, you're probably going to run $6. A high rate may run $9.
All right, and if you say, well, I've got these advanced traits, I've got Enlist or I've got Extend, that's wonderful. I think that's a great move in terms of weed control. But look at what you're saving. If you do a great job pre-emerge, you probably have less that you have to spend post-emerge, and those treatments, well, they're not giving them away for free. Plus, if you're talking about, well, I can use Liberty, yeah, Liberty's not free either. You can do the pre up front and get many of those weeds under control before you ever have to see them post-emerge.
The reason why we talk about these 3 specific categories of product, yellow, PPO, and metribuzin, is because for the most part, you're not going to use these, and especially these specific products, post-emerge. So that's a big win. You didn't use up anything that you could save for later. And the other big thing is they're all very, very effective, more effective than a lot of the alternatives that you could use pre-emerge instead.
Brian mentioned that you could use Prowl in the no-till, and certainly you could use Valor and Authority and Metribuzin in the no-till as well. But if you're going to do some tillage out on your farm, we get this question often, hey, can I do that after I apply those products? The answer is yes, you can do some tillage after you put those products out. The key is going to be to keep it shallow. Now, if you're using Prowl and you're using Valor or Authority and Metribuzin, they're fine if you're tilling them in the top inch or so of the soil. If you're using Treflan or Trifluralin, you can till that one a little bit deeper, but don't bury the Authority, the Valor, or the Prowl.
Now, when Darren said an inch, you're going to till deeper than an inch, okay? But usually what we figure is, let's say you're tilling 3 inches deep, that means a lot of the herbicide is going to end up 1.5 inches deep, or certainly in the top 1.5 inches. So yeah, just don't get it too deep and you should be in good shape. But we really, really do like lightly incorporating these products. They work quite effectively. We've done it on our farm for many, many years.
You hear us talk about the 3 Pries in soybeans often because, hey, it really works and farmers are getting more yield and they don't have to deal with our weed of the week. We'll show you what else will stop this weed coming up later in the show.
It starts with genetics, what you're made of. It takes agronomy. It's local. It's knowing your land and having the tools to put the right product in the right place. It's built on service with trust, grit, and determination. Because it turns out, what it takes to make the best product is a lot like what it takes to make a farmer. Golden Harvest, rooted in genetics, agronomy, and service.
I need results, so I choose the one system I trust to take weeds down and keep them down on even my toughest acres with the kind of yield potential that helps keep me in the black to deliver my kind of results season after season. I choose the Roundup Ready Xtend crop system. I choose results.
It's been remarkable what we've seen out of the varieties of Xtend soybeans. The yield has come through for us.
We had the best soybean crop we've ever had. The yields were there.
With the Roundup Ready Xtend crop system, the yield boost and the lack of weed pressure really helps our bottom line.
The technology has exceeded my expectations. It's one thing that the industry has been looking for years.
There's nothing like harvesting record crops.
The last thing you want after harvesting your grain is to spoil it before it goes to market. The Grain Temp Guard from Farm Shop MFG is a low-cost bin monitoring solution that tracks temperature and humidity and alerts you when conditions exceed safe thresholds. Visit farmshopmfg.com.
In 1949, Morton Buildings constructed our first machine storage building to establish our bond with the farming community. Since then, our relationship has grown, and so have our product offerings. From the smallest specialized operation to the largest agricultural enterprise, we understand the needs of your business and continue to evolve to meet industry demands. Plus, when you build a Morton building, you're backed by the strongest warranty in the business. To learn more about the Morton Advantage, visit mortonbuildings.com.
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whenever you want. In your life and on your farm, Case IH AFS Connect gives you more control. Monitor your operation, manage your fleet and your farm data your way. Case IH. Rethink productivity.
We're going to spend a little time focusing on manganese. It's a really important nutrient, and it's one that we've been trying to build levels of on our farm and many of our soils. Why is manganese so important? Well, let's look at the functions that it performs in the plant first of all.
Well, I would start with this. Manganese is often called the element of life. It is super important inside the plant in many of the different functions, including chlorophyll production, lignin building, and basically by lignin building that means your stalk and having less lodging. It's important for disease prevention, for pollen, for kernel weight. So many different things that manganese does. You have to have it in your plants if you want yield at all, and you have to have good levels in your plants if you want top yields.
Here's the challenge that we've been facing with manganese. There's some situations that we've got on our farm that are limiting our uptake of manganese. One would be cold soils. When we think about South Dakota, I mean, it does have south in the name, but south of what? Well, not south of enough apparently, because our soils are too cold in the spring to have really good manganese availability. So we see many farmers that are aware of this issue putting a manganese chelate out there at planting time, trying to feed the plant for the early portion of the year. The other challenge that we have with manganese is soil pHs. If your soil pH is above a 6.5, we see more of a challenge getting manganese into the plant. So lower soil pHs, generally better availability. Higher pHs, it's much more of a challenge.
So with manganese, it is an important micronutrient, and I just want to make sure you're not confusing this with magnesium. That's the common thing that we hear. Hey, are you talking about magnesium? No, we are not talking about magnesium. This is manganese. And one of the things that we do see manganese being important for that you may never have heard before is reducing white mold incidence in your crop. So if you have good manganese levels in the crop, it just seems to be a lot more tolerant. We first identified this when we had a farmer we were working with split a field where he put manganese on, he had no white mold. Where he did not put the manganese on, that's where all the white mold was. Well, we started doing a little research on that, and yes, there is some published data out there showing that good manganese levels means less white mold. Now, in order to get that good manganese level, could be a couple of things. Darren mentioned already soil pH, certainly soil heat. Those things absolutely can make a difference. But the other big thing is maybe you just need to apply more manganese.
As we travel around the world, we run into farmers all over the place that say, micronutrients are improving my drought tolerance in my crop. And I don't know if there's necessarily a drought tolerance aspect here as much as just feeding the crop with what it needs. Because no matter what crop you're growing, the way that it's pulling nutrients into the plant is by sucking in water through the root system. As that plant needs nutrients and it's not finding them, it just sucks in more water and more water and more water. And if a micronutrient like manganese is the problem in your field, and that's what's short, you're going to have more issues with running out of water too early.
Darren mentioned already the use of manganese chelate at planting. You can certainly do that either by itself or in a blend with other nutrients. There are a lot of different micro blends out there that people are using with the planter, and that's just fine. The other thing that I would ask you to consider is if you're really short on manganese, okay, a lot of times we're looking for 20 to 40 parts per million of manganese in a Midwest Labs DTPA test, for example. Okay, let's say that I'm at 5. And I've got my pH down to 6.3, so manganese should be pretty available, should show up in the soil test if it's there. That probably tells me I just flat out don't have enough manganese. So one of the things we've done, and I'd encourage you to check out, is manganese sulfate. Pretty inexpensive way to get lots of manganese out there all in one shot. Now, anytime you're going to put big rates of a micronutrient on, we would encourage you to at least consider broadcasting that, especially if you own the ground, and here's the reason why. If you overload a plant with any micronutrient, so I want you to just think about this. If your plant needs half a pound for the entire year, and you put out a pound, now you've got double what the plant needs in one shot. Well, how about if you put out 5 pounds or 10 pounds, which you may consider doing if you're super short? If you ban that and all of a sudden your plant takes in a 20x dose, what do you think's going to happen? So just be really careful. If you want to build your soil and you're doing it in a ban, don't get much more carried away than maybe a double rate or something like that. If it's broadcast, we're just fine with running some bigger rates, but just be careful with any of these micronutrients and what kind of rate you're using.
All right, Brian, let's tackle that last issue, Roundup. If I put Roundup on, my crop runs short of manganese. When I add manganese, I'm getting more yield. You know what? More times than not, when I've talked to farmers that have found this to be the case on their farm, I say, well, let me see your plant tissue tests and let me see your soil tests. And what we find is we were short of manganese to begin with. Now, I don't know that it's necessarily even the fault of Roundup that we've just run out of manganese because we haven't put on as much as we've taken off.
I will just tell you that this talk about Roundup hurting manganese is absolute nonsense. We've gone out 2 years in a row putting a 100x rate of Roundup on, 100 times on the soil. So if a normal rate of Roundup would tie up the manganese, surely 100 times, 2 years in a row ought to tie up the manganese. You know what our results were? no change in the plants in terms of how much manganese was there. So I don't think that's it at all. I just think it's simply we're pulling a lot of manganese out with our good crops that we're raising, and when was the last time you applied manganese? So at least consider manganese application for your farm. No, it's not leachable, I mean, in a big way or anything like that. It's nothing you have to worry about like nitrogen where you have to apply it every single year, but you got to have a decent level in your soil so you have good availability and good nutrient level overall in your plant.
Well, I don't know if it makes such a big difference about what the nutrient balance in the soil is for our weed of the week. It could still be a problem. We'll show you how to stop it coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is brought to you by Corteva Agriscience, Agriculture Division of Dow DuPont. Finish the fight against tough weeds with the Enlist Weed Control System.
Weeds are tough, but we're tougher. With unrivaled weed control, reduced drift, and near zero volatility. So, who's tough now?
Weed of the week is wild carrot.
Well, when we think about wild carrot, Brian, let's face it, it's not one that we see out in our cultivated fields. So tillage is certainly an option that could take wild carrot out if you get some out into your cultivated fields. However, where we do see it is in the roadside ditches and pastures.
Yeah, but fortunately, it's really not all that difficult to control. The biggest issue that we see is people using cut rates. So if, let's say, it's around your farmyard and you go to the hardware store and you buy some watered down 2,4-D, I get it, it's not going to work very well. Or even if you buy the real stuff and you're using a lower end labeled rate, not probably going to work well. So just make sure you're using a good strong rate. 2,4-D, dicamba work just fine. There are a lot of other products that work too, whether it's Grazon Next, lots of choices for controlling wild carrot.
Well, it kind of gives you an idea. If you get it out in soybeans, I would use the 3 Pries. If you're doing tillage and using some trifluralin as part of your 3 Pre mix, no problem. You're going to wipe this weed out. If you have it post-emerge, you could go with Enlist soybeans or Extend soybeans and use either the dicamba or the 2,4-D Brian just mentioned.
Yeah, and Roundup's not too bad either. It's just that, like Darren said, this is usually a problem in ditches and pastures where Roundup really isn't going to be used.
In corn, I like using Verdict. I can spray that sharpened component that's in the Verdict over the top and burn down wild carrot, especially if you catch it early. And then the other thing is post-emerge, I like Status again, which has some dicamba, but a second active ingredient in there that's very effective as well.
All right, in wheat, I'd probably start with Sharpen, follow up with Husky. Now, we don't normally recommend using any 2,4-D in wheat, but that certainly could help as well.
And the other thing to keep in mind here is this is a biennial weed. So if you can catch it in that rosette stage in the first year before it bolts and tries to put on seed, that would be the time you'll be most effective. And you won't have to deal with, well, did it already make seed? Or if I spray it now, will I hurt the germination of seed? I hate that question, Brian, because it's really impossible to answer. You have no idea. So just get it done early, the first year in the rosette stage.
Well, that's it for our Weed of the Week Wild Carrot, but stay tuned. Iron Talk is coming up next.
Tough, precise, efficient. Strip tillage with the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm. Learn more at soilwarrior.com/agphd.
More choices, more money. With Bayer Plus Rewards, you choose from our broad portfolio of high-performance products. Earn more money on the eligible products that are right for your farm. And use our new portal to see your purchases, track your rewards, and decide how you want to use them. Visit mybayerplus.com to sign in and start earning. That's the advantage of more control in your hands. That's the plus.
If you're looking to expand your farm's grain handling, you want everything to be fast and efficient. The Quick Belt from Norwood Sales is your all-around grain handling solution. Our conveyor-based system uses an 18-inch belt and a 10-inch tube, which minimizes seed damage while moving more than 10,000 bushels an hour. That's fast enough to fill a semi in 6 minutes. Plus, our hood is designed to gently direct the flow of grain straight down, keeping your crop in condition. Keep your grain and your farm moving with the Quick Belt from Norwood Sales.
There are a lot of steps to having a perfect season. Don't let your fertilizer plan be the step that trips you up. No matter when you apply fertilizer, no matter how, AgroLiquid has the experts and the products that'll help you move closer to your target and hit the bullseye. AgroLiquid moves you closer to your target.
Do you feel like there's never enough time to get everything done before planting? The window for spring work is quick and unforgiving. Give yourself the upper hand with the ProTill High Performance High Speed Disc. More and more farmers agree the ProTill is the right tool for springfield conditions and heavy residue management. Zero maintenance bearings, independent disc technology, oversized pins and bushings allow the ProTill to handle whatever field or conditions you can throw at it. Degelman High Performance Equipment.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
At Harvest, you have one goal: finding the perfect flow of grain from the field to the bin. Case IH axial flow combines are engineered for matched capacity to deliver proven grain savings, so you can keep efficiency flowing smoothly. Find yours with the Case IH axial flow.
Farming can be a challenge, especially when you're trying to plant into tight soils and heavy residue situations. We expect to see some tough conditions in the spring of 2020. So as harvest and fall fieldwork wraps up, it's time to head into the shop and prepare your planter. We'll show you how to check and adjust your furrow openers on your planter in today's Iron Talk. There are a couple major styles of disc seed furrow openers. Either two discs are side by side, as is common in the Deere, Kinsey, and White planters, or the two discs are in a staggered setting like the Case and a few others do it. Either way, now's the time to check your furrow openers for wear so you can adjust them for proper performance or replace them entirely. With the double disc seed furrow openers, the discs can be adjusted in as they wear. Simply remove the spacer washers from behind them as needed. You want the two blades to be working together as one cutting edge in order to do the best job. If they have about 2 inches of blade contact, you've probably got it just right. In that case, they'll typically cut through things well enough to get by in no-till under good conditions without an added coulter. If you do have an extra coulter, though, you can likely get things to work in less than ideal conditions too. On the staggered blade disc furrow openers, the rear disc should be tucked in behind the front disc and just touching. Now, if not, spend the money this year on new parts. Each planting season, it's so critical to dig behind the planter to make sure everything is working well. We saw so many issues in 2019 related to creating a perfect seed trench. It's unquestionably impacting emergence and performance each year, and getting a great stand is a prerequisite to you being successful. Check your furrow openers today. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
That's all the time we've got for today's show, but if you're looking for more agronomic information, we'd encourage you to check out the Ag PhD Insider magazine. You can learn more by going to agphdinsider.com.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.